All right, it's time to look into what's trending in employment law. Lawyer, you're on the clock.
So like most days, Phil, I've got three topics for us. And the first one is a case out of the Fifth Circuit that was decided just in the last couple of days, actually yesterday, where the Fifth Circuit gave approval to the Department of Labor's overtime authority. So the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals upheld the Department of Labor's ability to consider a worker's salary level when determining whether they should be exempt from federal overtime pay requirements, which was really a win for the Biden administration. And this ruling from yesterday actually involved a Trump-era overtime regulation. Remember, under the Trump administration in 2019, the Department of Labor increased the salary threshold for determining whether workers are exempt or not up to $35,568. We all know that earlier this year, the Department of Labor, July 1, increased the salary threshold for exempt positions up to $43,880. And they did that, the Biden Labor Department did that using essentially the same mechanism that the Trump administration used in 2019 to increase the salary threshold. So I don't think it comes as a surprise to anybody that that first bump of the Biden administration actually went into effect in a court of appeals. It said that that is valid. Now, what's interesting is that the salary basis or salary threshold is supposed to go up again on January 1, 2025, under the Department of Labor's new rules to $58,656. Now, I believe, I have not looked, but my understanding is that the mechanism that the Department of Labor used for that second bump looks a lot more like what got rejected by the Fifth Circuit many years ago under the Obama administration. So I still think that there's a 50-50 chance that this next bump does not actually go into effect, but we all need to keep our eyes on it because July 1, 2025 is quickly, or January 1, 2025 is quickly approaching.
So, Burt, I'm not sure what direction your firm is providing. I know as we are getting questions about that, we are advising everyone to prepare as if this is going to go into effect, recognizing it may very well get challenged and delayed, but prepare as if it is so that you can implement in the final hour if need be.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're advising clients as well. And I mean, if you just think about it, Phil, it's it really does impact people in the restaurant and retail industry, in particular managers in those businesses that may not be making as much as $58,656 in a year. And so what this new threshold would do on January 1, it would make those folks eligible for overtime pay, or the companies will have to bump up those salaries to keep them exempt.
Absolutely. All right. What else you got there, Mr. Lawyer on the clock?
All right. So I have a case, and while we're talking about the Department of Labor, the Fair Labor Standards Act, and this case just stuck out to me because we haven't been as focused on these types of Department of Labor wage and hour cases the last few years. But this case that was filed 2 days ago in a Michigan federal court, it served as a good reminder for me, and I thought I would pass it on to our viewers. That we really do need to focus on compliance with Fair Labor Standards Act, especially minimum wage and overtime requirements for non-exempt workers. And in this case, a customer call service center worker, Shatina Williams, she worked for a customer service firm from October 2022 to July 2023, fielded calls for the loyalty programs associated with car manufacturers, Ford and Lincoln. And what she did was she said that in her lawsuit, which she brought as a proposed class and collective action, she brought this saying she was denied wages for computer boot up time, according to her lawsuit. And so what that means is basically what she's saying is that she's saying that her company and subjected her and those similarly situated for failing to compensate call center employees for their necessary boot up and call ready work. And so that just goes to remind all of our viewers out there, all of our listeners, that if the employee is doing things essential to performing work during the day and they're in your workplace, it's likely that that time is going to be compensable. We hear about in the manufacturing setting and in a lot of other industries about time spending donning and doffing the clothing that may be necessary to perform the work in a day. And this is very similar to that. If the person has to go through something and your computer systems, and this is a timely topic, Phil, with everything going on today with computers. If your computer system takes 10 minutes to boot up in the morning and you're sitting there trying to boot up the computer so that you can do your work for the day, that time very well may be compensable. And so again, I thought this lawsuit just served as a good reminder that employers need to be paying attention to that stuff.
All right. So I do have a couple questions on this one because this is a fun one. So I'm going to be a little old school, and coming from the old school way of life that, hey, if your shift starts at 8 o'clock, then you show up early, you get your computer on, you get your coffee, you're sitting there, you're ready, bam, the clock goes off. I start working 8 o'clock. So in this case, are we saying that prep time, because I got there early to boot up my computer and get my workstation ready, is the compensable time? Or is it because I didn't start until 8:10, my clock time doesn't start till 8:10 when my shift should have started at 8? Was I clear in that?
Crystal clear,
Perfect.
Phil.
Perfect.
And I'll give you the lawyer answer. Well, maybe you can give me the lawyer answer.
Well,
What do you
I would
think I'm going to
start,
say?
if I was a lawyer as smart as you, I would start with it depends.
There you go.
Yeah.
You got it, Phil. So yeah, you've detailed a couple of different scenarios there. If somebody walks into the office, boots their computer up, goes to get a cup of coffee, they're sitting in the break room chit-chatting with people, that time in and of itself is probably not going to be compensable. But if the person comes into the office, boots up the computer, sits there, waiting for the computer to boot up and is staring at the screen, if they could have started work immediately, had the computer booted up immediately, then the time very well may be compensable. And my friend Tanya, who's a recovering lawyer, right, Tanya? She just reminded me here, of course, that if the time if the pre-work activity is integral and indispensable to the principal activity performed by workers, then the time is compensable. So again, I think it depends on what
that's a good way of separating it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it depends again on what the employee's doing. Are they walking in, putting their backpack, their purse, whatever it is, down on the desk, hitting the start button on the computer, and walking away and then going and goofing around for 10 minutes versus actually sitting there waiting to work?
Yeah. And well, for me, coffee is integral to the day of work. So that would count for me. All right. Good stuff. No, that's good stuff. And great job, Tanya, jumping in there. That's the advantage of having someone like Tanya on your staff, right? She's got a lot of skills.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. And then the last one I want to talk about really, really quickly is this is a First Amendment case. So it applied, the First Amendment was applicable here because it involved a university, the University of Louisville School of Medicine, so a public entity here. And so this is not just a private employer, but we talk a lot on this program about employers getting involved in sort of social justice and sort of other social activities. And I think this case kind of illustrates the potential danger of a public employer wading into these areas of the law. And at a conference where a professor of the University of Louisville School of Medicine was speaking, he stated, quote, that gender dysphoria is a socio-cultural psychological phenomenon that cannot be fully addressed with drugs and surgery. And so he expressed his concern and the university, the director of the university's LGBT executive center learned about the remarks, emailed the dean of the med school, suspecting the professor might be violating the ethical standards for psychiatry. And so the particular professor, they ultimately requested his resignation. And he did actually resign. They also were not going to renew his caseload. So he brought us a lawsuit against the university, and the trial court at the federal trial court said that he has stated a claim against the university for a First Amendment violation, that they're trying to restrict his free speech. And the Sixth Circuit took oral argument on that case. It'll be interesting to see how it's decided. Again, I want to remind everybody that it is not a private employer, it's a public employer, but it is a good reminder for everybody as the company. You always have to remember your company is made up of all kinds of people with all kinds of different beliefs. Your customers, your clients, et cetera, have all kinds of different beliefs. And I think it just kind of illustrates the danger of when the entity itself starts wading into these controversial issues.
Thank you once again for tuning in to This Week at Work. If you enjoy the show, please share it with your colleagues. Forward our invites. Share the link, aimea.org/This Week at Work, or follow or subscribe wherever you get your news and entertainment, like LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're everywhere you are. And you can be part of the show. Send your questions and comments anytime to info@thisweek.work. We'll see you next week, 7:30 a.m. Central Time, when we discuss what's happening this week at work.